Good afternoon. You're just in time for news now at 4 p.m. with I, Sheilar, Chelangat. But first, let's take a look at some of the stories making headlines at this hour. The highlights. Juja MP George Koimburi taken to Karen Hospital after he was found hours after his alleged abduction. Learning resumes in schools in Kerio Valley after last week's attack that claimed the life of a Catholic priest. And security agencies in Vihiga County launch investigations to establish the cause of unrest at Mbale Boys High School last night. All right, thank you for joining. The 15 minutes of this bulletin begins now. Juja Member of Parliament George Koimburi, who was allegedly abducted this morning, was this morning found dumped in a coffee plantation in Kibichoi, Kiambu County. Koimburi, who had been admitted at the Karen Hospital, is claiming that he had been beaten up by his abductors. Koimburi was picked outside a church in Kiambu on Sunday. Police have, however, denied involvement in the incident. Meanwhile, former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua is leading a team of leaders at the Karen Hospital where Koimburi is admitted and has addressed the media.
Let me ask the people of Kenya to be calm. I want to ask the supporters of the Honorable Koimburi to stay calm. We'll do everything possible to make sure that we are more careful. In the face of the repression that is going on, you are aware that members of parliament opposed to this regime, their bodyguards have been disarmed, so that they stop going for meetings and feel vulnerable. But it is very clear why they are being disarmed is to allow members of that gang that has been formed by the president to abduct them and to threaten them. And if anything happens to these members of parliament, to any leader in this country opposed to William Ruto, the president will be held to account. And let me tell William Ruto, people of Kenya cannot elect you by force. They elected you.
All right, more of that story in our subsequent bulletin at 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. Moving on, learning has reportedly resumed in all schools that had been shut down in Kerio Valley due to last week's attack that resulted to the death of a Catholic church priest who was shot dead. According to Elgeyo Marakwet County Commissioner George Korir, the move by Deputy Inspector General Eliud Lagat to deploy police officers across schools in Kerio Valley is already underway. Korir assured parents that officers have already been deployed to the areas to enhance security.
So far, quite a number of measures have been put in place, and following that particular incident, a few schools were affected last week on Friday. Basically, one secondary school that is taught, and Kapkain Primary School and Tot Primary School, which are actually within the presence of Tot area where the Catholic priest was killed. What we have done as a department, we have deployed security officers in all schools within Kerio Valley. So there should not be any fear at all. These security officers will be in these schools for the period we deem it is unsafe for learners and teachers.
All right, and the Office of the Presidential Special Project and Creative Economy has blasted former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua over the Mount Kenya musician's remark, terming it as a clear sign of a dictator in waiting. In a statement, the head of the office, Dennis Itumbi, told of Gachagua, saying that Kenyan musicians should not be pawns in the game of politics. He termed Kenyan musicians as entrepreneurs, innovators, and cultural custodians whose talents are God-given. Itumbi further said that the statements by Gachagua were insulting, economically reckless, dishonest, and politically desperate. Itumbi has urged the musicians not to flinch and use their gifts to their power. This comes a day after former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua called on Mount Kenya residents to shun artists who paid a visit to Deputy President Kithure Kindiki. And still on the same, a section of the business community in Nairobi County, allied to the Kenya Kwanza government, has strongly condemned former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua over remarks urging the Mount Kenya community to boycott music by artists who recently visited Deputy President Kithure Kindiki at his current residence. Speaking during a press briefing in Nairobi, the business leaders criticized Gachagua for what they termed as divisive and backward politics aimed at creating unnecessary rifts within the Mount Kenya region and the wider Kenyan society. The group commended the Kenya Kwanza administration for notable achievements in infrastructure, security, and economic empowerment projects, noting that such progress should not be overshadowed by political theatrics.
Bwana Gachagua, wakati umeenda kuform chama yako na hapa nyuma unasema watu lazima waheshimu uhuru. Kuheshimu uhuru, ungeambia Wakikuyu wote warudi Jubilee. Kwa sababu hiyo ndio chama ya uhuru.
Nairobi ni metropolitan. Usikuje hapa kutuletea hiyo Ukikuyu. Hakuna Mkikuyu nusu, sisi ni Wakikuyu. Na sisi Wakikuyu nusu. Kwa hiyo wakati unaongea habari ya Wakikuyu, jiulize unaongea kwa wagani.
Gachagua tunakuambia na hatukuogopi na hatuogopi kitu yoyote. Juu tunasikia unatisha. Tisha wale hawakujui, sisi mafala. Sisi tumezaliwa Nairobi, Pumwani maternity. Kwa hivyo wacha kusumbua Ruto. Sasa kwanza si siasa, sasa ni maendeleo.
Wakati wasanii wetu wanaenda kumeet our deputy president, unakuta ya kwamba Gachagua tena ameanza kusema ya kwamba watu waanze kuunfollow ama kuangalia zile account handles zao, waweze kutoka kwa hizo account handles. Hiyo ni kumaliza watu wetu ambao ni vijana wetu, ambao ni vijana tunapenda, na tutahakikisha ya kwamba sisi tutasimama na hao vijana kwa sababu waliamua kushikana na serikali na ni serikali ambayo iko.
And to the western region, where security agencies in Vihiga County are investigating the cause of protests that erupted last night at Mbale Boys High School in Sabatia sub-county, leaving huge losses on the school's infrastructure. The boys' school, which has been closed indefinitely, hosts 1,422 students who have been sent home due to the impact of the protests that lasted for about 4 hours last night. Vihiga County Commissioner Florence Sitawa has confirmed the closure of the school, adding that they are yet to establish the cause of the violent protests that left school offices, classes, as well as food stores vandalized.
We have fully assessed and agreed that yes, there were damages to the school, and the school, we have decided that it be closed indefinitely until next week, when the full board will sit and deliberate. But today they are going to communicate to the parents on the closure of the school indefinitely.
Kuna fans alafu viozi zimevunjwa, sasa wangekuwa wanapokea simu ili watuelezee nini kinaendelea. Ingekuwa ni at least afueni kwa wazazi. and then kama wako na ile information ya wale labda wameenda hospitali ama kuna some injuries, ni vizuri wangetuelezea so that at least we are settled.
Tumekuwa kwa hali ya kuhangaika usiku huo mpaka jinsi umefika asubuhi, tukatoka tuje tuone wana wetu. Tumefika, mimi wangu nimempata. Unapomuuliza kiini haswa ambacho kimefanya hali hii katokea, mwanafunzi anasema ajui, hata ajui waanzilishi wa kile ambacho kimetendeka. Na ni ombi letu tu kwa walimu, wawe wakati mwingi wanasikiza watoto. Kitu kidogo kinaweza fanya mambo kama haya yatokee.
Nilipokea simu saa 5 usiku nikiambia pale boys is on fire. Nilishtuka sana, nilikosa mamazo mapema nikaraukia. Nimekuja kwa bahati nzuri nimepata mtoto.
And still in the same region, Trans Nzoia Governor George Natembeya, accompanied by Roots Party leader George Wajakoya, visited Kakamega town earlier today, urging the Luhya community to rally together and register as voters so that they can increase their political bargaining power in the 2027 general elections. Natembeya advised the Luhya community to plan and change voting tactics as a bloc, as they have supported presidential candidates from other tribes numerous times with nothing to show for it. He further took a swipe at other political leaders in the region, accusing them of prioritizing personal agendas over community development. Roots Party leader George Wajakoya emphasized that there was a need for the Luhya community to demand for national leadership positions.
Mimi natoka hapa Kakamega. Nikienda nikiongea najua kwamba ile siku watasema Natembeya huko na watu wangapi. Nitatoa idadi yote ya Waluhya, si ndio? Alafu tuongee na wanaume wengine tupange hatima ya taifa la Kenya, si ndio? Mambo ya watu kunyanyaswa tena hatutaki. Wale viongozi ambao mnataka ndio tuongea nao, si ndio? Hakuna mambo ya kudictate Mluhya 2027 lazima anaokoka. Kama namna gani wachewe? Mambo ya madharau inakwisha, si ndio? Wameleta mtu mwingine ambaye hajachaguliwa. Hadi yeye ndiye anakuja kupanga Waluhya. Kila weekend yako hapa anatukana viongozi ya Waluhya.
Bungoma sio mahali pa kuchezewa semeni Wakitaka kupanga wale matumbo kubwa waende Sugoi wapangie huko. Mnasikia? Hatuwezi kupata mtu mmoja anashika watu, ananyanyasa watu, anafanya watu kama mabibi zake.
And back to the capital, the Finance Committee has today organized sessions on the public opinions from Kenyans regarding the 2025 finance bill. The 2025 budget is projected to 4.2 trillion Kenyan shillings. Kenyans have been urged to participate and share their views on the budget before the bill is presented to Parliament for approval. The public opinions are expected to provide an opportunity for citizens to give suggestions concerning the finance bill, which is aimed at ensuring the economic policies and tax measures reflect their priorities.
Very young, innovative guys. So if you look at existing financial regulations, as you've pointed out, insurance regulations, for instance, banking regulations, some of these fit and proper requirements go into years of experience or educational background. Right now, there is no course called Bachelors of Science in Virtual Assets, or there is no criteria of establishing how many years of experience you'd have. So if the same regulators use the standard that they've been using for the past couple of years as fit and proper, which can be adjusted to weigh against existing innovators, it might end up being unfair, whereby, for instance, a young 30-year-old person who's been running virtual assets service, a crypto exchange or a crypto company for the past 5 years, if the fit and proper say that the CEO needs to have a background in the financial industry, this young man has been running a crypto app or a crypto exchange for the past 5 years, but does not have background experience in what the existing regulators will validate and confirm as financial industry. So you have the young man on the left. Then on the right, you have a 50-year-old gentleman who's had experience in the banking sector, in the securities market sector, but has never run a crypto exchange, for instance. So if the conventional standard of what fit and proper is goes as is, you might find that the gentleman ends up being CEO, then the young person who knows exactly what goes on in this sector might end up being disqualified. So whereas we appreciate the fit and proper tests, which is standard across financial sector.
All right, let's get sporty. And Kayole Starlets secured a dominant 3-0 win over Madeira Soccer Assassins at Afraha Stadium in Nakuru on Sunday afternoon in Nakuru City to be crowned the FKF Women's National Super League champions. All 3 goals were scored inside the first 45 minutes, with Chalovu Sara netting the first goal before Sheilar Otieno bagged a brace right before halftime. The Starlets now finished the season with a total tally of 50 points after registering 15 wins, 5 draws and just 1 loss after a total of 21 games played.
Season yetu ilikuwa ngumu kidogo, but kitu imetusaidia ni that tulianza pre-season mapema. Tulibring in players wale tulikuwa watusaidie na tulianza pre-season mapema sana, so I think pia imechangia preparation ya mapema imechangia sana. Na pia players wale tulipata waliamua wanataka kuja kutusaidia kupandisha timu ligi. Shukrani sana kwa the whole team.
All right, that concludes News Now at 4 p.m. with I, Sheilar Chelangat. Thank you for watching. Do enjoy the rest of your viewership. Good afternoon.